You found yourself on another edition of Let 'Em Know Kings United, and on today's episode, I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday, because the Cavs, Kings, and Bulls, they certainly did not. They lost all 3 games the day before Thanksgiving, and as a result, all 3 teams were forced to eat Thanksgiving leftovers. Although one team has an argument for a Thanksgiving feast. I know it's a day late, but I'll explain why as we break down all 3 losses. This is Let 'Em Know Kings United. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for the post-game reaction podcast of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Sacramento Kings, and the Chicago Bulls. This is Let 'Em Know Kings United. Let 'em know, nation, we are back, and you know what time it is. Welcome to another edition of Let 'Em Know Kings United, your Sacramento Kings, Cleveland Cavaliers, and Chicago Bulls post-game reaction podcast. And I'm your host, Scarlett Weisberg. Thank you so much for tuning into today's show. You can find Let 'Em Know Kings United, which is 100% completely free and available on Amazon Music, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Radio Public, Pandora, and wherever else you want to listen to this show. Give the show a follow on those platforms. If you can, please turn on your notifications so you know about the next episode. Please rate, spread the word out to your friends, and give Let 'Em Know Kings United a 5-star review on every podcast platform you're listening to this on. It is a great way to support the podcast, and I appreciate every single one of you for tuning in. First and foremost, I hope everybody around the world that is listening to this in the United States, United Kingdom, it doesn't matter wherever country that you are from, but for those friends that have been listening into this show from the United States, I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. I sure did with my family and friends. There was a lot of food. There was a lot of grub. I'm probably sounding a little bit exhausted from the Thanksgiving turnout that I had last night, but we'll probably make it work for y'all. We'll probably make it work. Now, hear me out. All 3 of our teams, the Cleveland Cavaliers, Sacramento Kings, and the Chicago Bulls, mostly Chicago, deserved to eat Thanksgiving leftovers. But there are 2 out of the 3 losses that I thought, all right, I got to give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, right? I'm not going to go completely hard on 2 of our 3 teams today, but it does count the same, right? I mean, sometimes you have off nights, other times you cannot solve the back-to-back, and then other times you look absolutely pathetic. I want to start by talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers' loss 129-96 over the Miami Heat. Now look, the Cleveland Cavaliers were coming off an overtime thriller against Philadelphia the other night. It was an NBA in-season tournament game, and it was the second game of a back-to-back. I'm not going to say that it was a trap game for the Cleveland Cavaliers, but I will say that the Miami Heat did catch the Cleveland Cavaliers on a little bit of a bad night, and all credit to the Miami Heat. They were able to take advantage of the bad night and just completely dominate the Cleveland Cavaliers wire to wire as they outscored the Cleveland Cavaliers 37-26 in the first quarter and 28-17 in the fourth quarter. But in that time, the bench guys were playing for most of the game. But my MVP of the game was Kyle Lowry. This man scored a season-high 28 points and made 7 3-point shots off the Cleveland Cavaliers defense. I mean, that doesn't happen. That normally doesn't happen. I know Kyle Lowry is an NBA champion. I know Kyle Lowry is a 3-point scorer, but damn, him scoring 7 threes off the Cleveland Cavaliers defense. I mean, I did not see that coming, and clearly J.B. Bickerstaff of the Cleveland Cavaliers didn't see it coming. Lowry made his first 5 threes and finished 7 of 10 from long range, but the Heat were without all-star starter Bam Adebayo, but they built a 19-point first-half lead, and they never trailed in winning their 9th in the last 10 games. The Miami Heat are the hottest team in the NBA right now. Kyle Lowry said, with Bam sitting out, I knew it was an opportunity for me to get shots. A good win on the road against a really, really good team. Miami's been earning its frequent flyer mileage as the Heat are playing a league-high 12 of 17 games to start the season outside the 305, outside of South Florida. But guess what? With the Heat culture that I talked about, and with head coach Eric Spoelstra, who should be the NFL Coach of the Year in some form or another, I can trust that the Miami Heat were always going to be ready to play, and I do think that the Miami Heat were ready to play. Kyle Lowry stood out in the best way, and also Jaime Jaquez Jr. had his best game as a professional with 22 points, and the Heat tied a franchise record with 8 players in double figures as their reserves played the entire fourth quarter. You know that the Miami Heat were in control when Eric Spoelstra said, you know what, let's just sit the starters. We probably have a game coming up down the road. Let's give our starters a little bit of a break. Meanwhile, for the Cleveland Cavaliers, they had their winning streak stopped at 4. They were understandably dragging after a win in overtime at Philadelphia to keep their hopes alive for a wild card in the NBA's in-season tournament. Darius Garland scored 14 points, and Evan Mobley had 13 to lead Cleveland, which has been dealing with a big-time number of injuries. With the Cavs down 22 going into the fourth, J.B. Bickerstaff gave his starters some needed rest. J.B. Bickerstaff said, you could see mentally, emotionally, and physically, we couldn't just find it. We played a great game last night and obviously expended a lot of energy. We tried, but we just couldn't find it. We don't make excuses, but it's the basketball reality that we live in. I'm going to give the Cleveland Cavaliers a little bit of the doubt. A little benefit of the doubt. Okay? I mean, they were coming off a game the other night where they had to expand a lot of energy in order to win the game, and unfortunately for Cleveland, the Miami Heat caught the Cavs slipping on a really bad night. But you know what? These kind of things happen. Right? These kind of things happen in this league. Like you play a really competitive game in overtime against a really talented Philadelphia team, then you come home in the second night of the back-to-back, and then you lay an egg. Well, guess what? Shtick happens. Shtick happened for the Cleveland Cavaliers on Wednesday night. I'm not gonna get mad at them. I'm not gonna yell at them. I'm not gonna go crazy on them. But I will say that every team in this league deserves to have a bad night. And unfortunately for the Cleveland Cavaliers, it was their bad night Wednesday night against a really talented Miami Heat team who, again, for the Cavs, they didn't have Isaac Okoro, they didn't have Ty Jerome, and especially they did not have Donovan Mitchell. Well, Bam Adebayo and the Miami Heat was the biggest injury for them, but I'm not here to make excuses. I'm here to tell everybody the truth, and I want to give credit where credit is due to the Miami Heat. They came out firing out of the get-go, and Kyle Lowry was making and draining threes all night long. And when Kyle Lowry and the Miami Heat get hot and get going, they cannot be stopped. And they got it going, and they played outstanding basketball against the Cleveland Cavaliers. They shot 52% from the field, 57% from three-point range, compared to 46% or 47% from both the field and three for the Cleveland Cavaliers. The free throw percentage, 81% for Miami, 71% for Cleveland. The rebounds, 41-34 in favor of Miami, with 10 of them on the offensive rebounds. 30 assists for Miami, 25 for Cleveland. The steals numbers, 11-5 in favor of the Heat 7-6 with the blocks in favor of Miami. 19 turnovers for Cleveland, only 12 for the Miami Heat. You can understand it was the second night of a back-to-back for Cleveland, and I understand that, but at the same time, you have to play selfless basketball and not selfish basketball. And unfortunately for Cleveland, there was too much selfishness on this night, and that allowed the Miami Heat to take advantage. Kyle Lowry, he was hooking. 28 points, 7 of 10 from three-point range with 3 assists, a rebound. Hodges Jr. had his best game at the pros with 22 points. He was 4 for 4 from three-point range, 4 for 5 on the foul line. He also had 8 rebounds, assists, and a steal. Great night for him. Jimmy Butler, he didn't have to do much, but he got 10 points and 9 assists and 4 rebounds for the Miami Heat. As far as the Cleveland Cavaliers, nobody really stood out. Right? Nobody stood out in a really positive fashion for the Cleveland Cavaliers. It was a really off night. I mean, sure, Craig Porter Jr. led the Cleveland Cavaliers in scoring with 16 points. He also had 5 assists, a steal, and 2 rebounds. And DG had 14 points with 3 assists, and Evan Mobley had 13 and 10, a double-double for him. But overall, it was just a really bad night for the Cleveland Cavaliers. A second game of a back-to-back after an overtime. I knew that was going to possibly kill the momentum for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and unfortunately, that came into fruition. But I'm not going to get mad at them. I'm not going to yell at Cleveland. It was just a really bad night, and unfortunately, the Cleveland Cavaliers have to eat their Thanksgiving leftovers. But you know what? I'm going to give them maybe the fresh leftovers. Kind of like when everybody ate at 3 o'clock, you took a long nap, and you wake up, it's still fresh and ready to go. That's exactly what I'm going to give the Cleveland Cavaliers, the fresh leftovers. Yes, it was a bad night, but Cleveland is a good and talented team, and I am really confident that they will be able to bounce back. Their next game coming up tomorrow against the Los Angeles Lakers with the return of LeBron James. Unfortunately, I cannot say the same for the Sacramento Kings as they got out-physicaled again by the New Orleans Pelicans, and they cannot solve the back-to-back games. We're going to break this Pelicans win over the Sacramento Kings when we come back. This is Let 'Em Know Kings United. Welcome back to Let 'Em Know Kings United Black Friday edition. And well, the Sacramento Kings have a glaring problem that I've been seeing since the last back-to-back against Houston. And the problem is we are not physical enough to match the physicality of the Houston Rockets, and we're damn sure not physical enough to match the New Orleans Pelicans. As the Sacramento Kings, and I will say this, we did pull up a rally to try to come back. We did outscore the New Orleans Pelicans 33-24, but we came up just short by a final score of 117 to 112 as the New Orleans Pelicans sweep the back-to-back against the Sacramento Kings. And Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram, those boys done did it again. They've been putting up extra work together on the late game situations during recent Pelicans practices, and it appears to be paying off. I wish that the Sacramento Kings could do the same thing. Get a little extra work after practice. You know, don't be complacent and feel like you're going to get a win. You're going to have to put some extra work in order to win games. And I think Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram would be 2 great examples for the Sacramento Kings to follow. Williamson scored 25 points. Ingram added 21. And the New Orleans Pelicans regrouped after losing a 14-point fourth quarter and beat the Kings back on Wednesday night. Willie Green was really, really impressed about the extra work that Ingram and Williamson put in. Both of those guys have just been working diligently with the coaching staff, just working on chemistry together in the middle of the floor for moments like that. As both stars of the Pelicans made pivotal plays late to put the Pelicans in front for good en route to their second straight victory over the Kings and fourth in the last 5 games. As far as the Sacramento Kings, I gotta be honest here. I really need to be honest. Sacramento, I get that they're trying to establish a new physical identity. I understand that. I completely get it. But the problem is with teams like Houston, with teams like New Orleans, and certainly tonight as I'm recording this, teams like Minnesota. Those 3 teams have the same type of physicality that the Sacramento Kings are looking to have. It's not that the Sacramento Kings don't have the talent enough to win games against all 3 opponents, because I believe the talent for the Sacramento Kings is through the freaking roof. The problem that I have is the Sacramento Kings lack physicality against those 3 guys. They don't match the same physicality that they've had against everybody else. I mean, I would call it a trap game, but I'm not afraid. But I don't think it's a trap game. I think it's just a straight up fact. The Sacramento Kings are not physical enough at times to match the physicality of the New Orleans Pelicans, Houston Rockets, and now the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I think it's gonna. I think the back-to-back games against Houston, and now the back-to-back games against the New Orleans Pelicans have shown that. But I need to say this. The Sacramento Kings showed a little more fight than what they did against Houston. And I will give the Sacramento Kings all the credit in the world that. New Orleans' recent run of good form has followed a 5-game skid that ended after a lopsided loss in Dallas back on November 12th. 2 Sundays ago, the energy wasn't there for us. We were all sitting here trying to figure out what we needed to do, but now we came together as a team. Jonas Valanciunas also had a big game, a double-double with 15 and 11, who also beat the Kings in New Orleans on Monday night. Jordan Hawkins added 13 points, and Najee Marshall had 12 points. De'Aaron Fox had a game-high 26. Domantas Sabonis had 23 and 9, while Harrison Barnes added 22 points. Mike Brown kept it completely honest. With Sacramento here. Their length and athleticism bothered us, and Zion was a load. Our guys showed a little bit of fight, and you like that, and hopefully we can bottle that up going forward. The Pelicans missed 23 of 30 33-point attempts, but they made up for that by outscoring the Kings, and I cannot believe that I'm about to say this, 62-28 in the paint. Ouch! That's a reality check right there. And you know what? That is, once again, like I talked about with the Miami Heat and the Cleveland Cavaliers, selfless basketball. When your 3 is not working, you need to read the defense and you need to get the ball to the paint. And I want to give credit to the New Orleans Pelicans for adjusting their game plan. They said to themselves, okay, our 3-point shots are not going down. They are weak at defending the paint, and they're a little bit too small. And that's another problem for Sacramento. I think we're a little too small. And the lack of size for Sacramento caused the New Orleans Pelicans, especially Zion Williamson and Jonas Valanciunas, to take advantage. We have De'Aaron Fox said about the physicality, we have to be physical before it gets too late. Obviously, trying to play from behind the entire game is not what you want to do. And about the New Orleans Pelicans performance, a gutsy performance by the New Orleans Pelicans, even when they made their run, Willie Green said. We stayed calm. We made some big shots down the stretch. Watch out for the New Orleans Pelicans. They look like a team that can compete against anybody in the Western Conference. As far as the Sacramento Kings, as far as leftovers, I would say a day-old leftovers. I'm not going to say the fresh ones like Cleveland did, but the day-old leftovers, because I do understand that the Sacramento Kings Sacramento Kings were going to make the run. But like I said before, they got to match their physicality, the physicality of the New Orleans Pelicans. And unfortunately for these two games, just like Houston, they couldn't match it. 47% for the field for New Orleans, 44% for Sacramento. Both teams were struggling from hitting the three, even though Sacramento made 15 threes compared to 7 for the New Orleans Pelicans. The free throw percentage, 83 for Sacramento, 75 for New Orleans. The rebounds, 48-38 in favor of New Orleans. The assist numbers were pretty even. The steals were 10-3 in favor of New Orleans. The blocks were 2-1. Fast break points, Sacramento had the clear advantage, 16-5. But again, the big stat, the points in the paint, 62-28 in favor of the New Orleans Pelicans. You are not going to win any games in this league if you don't learn how to defend the paint. De'Aaron Fox leads the Sacramento Kings in scoring with 26 points. He also had rebounds, 5 assists, and a steal. Domantas Sabonis had another close to a double-double, 23, 9 rebounds, and 6 points. 6 assists, Kevin Huerter had 8 points. He was struggling for the three-point range. Harrison Barnes finished with 22 with 3 rebounds. Off the bench, Trey Lyles, welcome back. His first game back due to injury. He had 12 points and 8 rebounds, but overall, it was a very tough loss for the Sacramento Kings. I like the fight that they brought, but again, in order to beat teams like Houston, New Orleans, and Minnesota, you gotta match the physicality of their opponent. And unfortunately for Sacramento, they couldn't match the physicality that Houston had, and they certainly couldn't match the physicality that New Orleans had. But I appreciate and respect the efforts that the Sacramento Kings had to nearly come back and beat the New Orleans Pelicans, but they came up just short because of the lack of physicality. Coming up next, I want to go off on the Chicago Bulls, because once again, a slow start by Chicago and playing from behind. You're going to have to wait till I come back, because I'm going to go off. We're going to come right back right here on Let 'Em Know Kings United. Final segment here on Let 'Em Know Kings United. I'm going to keep it short, sweet, and to the point with y'all when I try to say this. The Bulls flat out suck. They are sorry. They are pathetic. They are not prepared. They don't respect the game. They don't learn how to lock in for 48 minutes. It is just the same old excuse every single week. And let me tell you something. Everybody in the NBA is slowly discovering something's going on with Chicago. They don't look prepared to play this game. They don't know what a start means. They don't know how to lock in for 48 minutes. Apparently, SGA figured that out, and he exposed us. The Thunder flat out exposed the Chicago Bulls 2 times. 2 times this season. The first time it was at the season home opener at the United Center that we got absolutely clapped and smoked on by a final score of 124-104. I thought that was the most embarrassing loss of the season. Nah. Let's lower the standard. Let's lower the standard in Chicago and get clapped by the Thunder by a final score of 116-102. Let me tell you something right now. The Chicago Bulls are just straight up pathetic. They are straight up pathetic. They have no fight. They have no heart. They have no sense of urgency, and I am damn sick of it. Why am I covering this team? I don't know. Why did I choose to come to Chicago? I don't know. Maybe it's because I love the United Center. Maybe it's because it's my winter home away from home. Maybe it's because the Chicago Bulls had a long and prestigious history with legends like Will Perdue, Kendall Gill, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, Michael Jordan, Ron Harper. I can go on and on and on and on and on about the history about the Chicago Bulls. And unfortunately, this team just does not know how to respect and acknowledge the standard that Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen created. I mean, my God, we were close a decade ago when we had Derrick Rose. You know, the Derrick Rose that went off the 2010-11 season, the Derrick Rose that won an MVP. But since he teared his ACL, the Chicago Bulls have been cursed. They have been cursed as a franchise of not going back to the playoffs, even though they did go to the playoffs a couple of years ago. But I don't remember that because the Chicago Bulls stink. They just flat out stink. Why am I supporting this team? I don't know. Why am I covering them? I don't know. Maybe it's the sake for this podcast. I have no idea. But one thing I do know, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is built different. He's built different for the Oklahoma City Thunder. He dropped 40 points and 12 assists. A 40-piece on the Chicago Bulls? Like, okay, SGA, I know you're good. I know you're talented. I know you're one of the coldest players in the NBA right now. I'm going to keep it a buck. But you don't have to go off. You didn't have to embarrass my Chicago Bulls. Oh, actually, he had to because he had to show the Chicago Bulls how to win. And the OKC Thunder, I thought the Miami Heat were one of the hottest teams in the NBA right now. There's another team that is like smoking hot right now, and that is the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have now won 6 straight games, and they are 11-4, a half game back of the Minnesota Timberwolves for not only first place in the Northwest, but probably the best record in the NBA. And let me tell you something, for any Minnesota Timberwolves fan that are listening to this, I know I'm getting a little bit off topic, but I have to blow some steam, okay? Let me tell you something. You have a hot start of 11-3. You might likely go 12-3 thanks to the lack of physicality that the Sacramento Kings had. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm just saying that right here, right now. This start will not last and will not last long because there's only one player that is pretty damn good on that team, and that is Anthony Edwards. Karl Anthony Towns, you are overrated as hell. I know I have you on my fantasy team, but you are overrated, and you cannot keep your consistency for 4 quarters. And likely, the Chicago Bulls do not learn what it means to play 4 quarters. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander raised his average to 30 points for the season and was showered with MVP chances. He closed out the game with 6 free throws down the stretch. In his 5th season with the Thunder, SGA moved up to 3rd on the Oklahoma City scoring list behind Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. Crazy. This man in 5 years has done more than what Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook done the whole time that he went to OKC. The whole time that KD and Russell Westbrook went to OKC, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was like, let me outperform y'all. And that is exactly what he did. SGA said, stuff like this is always cool. It's what you dream of as a kid. Obviously, the list has some heavy hitters on it. We won tonight, and that's all that really matters. It was a great win for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And as far as the head coach, Mark Daigneault, and oh, by the way, SGA is seeing more double teams as opponents try to get the ball out of his hands, and he credits that for being able to rack up more assists. He accounted for 71 of the Thunder's 116 points back on Wednesday. Mark Daigneault said, it's been a process, and I feel like I'm getting better at it. The best players to ever go through it. Or SGA said this, I'm sorry. Coach Mark has been great with helping me. My teammates have been really good, knowing it's coming as well, getting ready in spots, knowing the ball that is coming out of the trap to make plays and make the next basketball play. Daigneault was really impressed with SGA's defense as well as his offense. It's not football, he said, when you just play quarterback. To have a guy as engaged and smart as he is, obviously with his length, he gets deflections and blocks. He was a two-way player tonight, not just with his scoring. I thought he took what they gave him as far as early passes, getting his teammates involved. SGA, I have to admit, and I have to say, he is more of a complete player than any single member of the Chicago Bulls. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander clears the entire Chicago Bulls roster. He clears Nikola Vucevic, and it's not even close. He clears Zach LaVine, who missed this game due to an injured foot. And by the way, Zach LaVine, thank God you did not play this game. I feel bad for you that you were injured, but thank God you didn't play this game for Chicago, because if you played, my God, it would have been a totally different conversation, bro. It would have been totally just like Zach LaVine, get the living hell out of Chicago. And by the way, Zach LaVine, I still want you to live in hell out of Chicago, because you are nothing more than a cancer in this organization, bro. I don't give a damn how much talent you have. I don't give a damn about your dunking and scoring prowess. Your actions of the past few weeks. The past few weeks, bro, you pushing PRs, you saying to the PRs, oh, I don't want to talk, you shoving PR people out of the way, going into the locker room, that conduct will never be accepted by any other team and any other organization. And I understand that you want to go to teams like San Antonio, Sacramento, for example. I understand that. But if Greg Popovich and Mike Brown see that shit, they might be say that stuff. I'm sorry for the curse. I'm trying to keep it PG here, but sometimes it gets spilled out. But anyway, if SGA or Greg Popovich and Mike Brown, for example, right? If they see the conduct that you've been doing, Zach LaVine, they might be like, oh, I don't know about this guy. I don't know about Zach LaVine. Maybe he would be a bad thing, maybe a bad piece for our culture. Well, for Sacramento's purposes, you damn sure don't want Zach LaVine. If you're San Antonio, then maybe you could get a chance off him. Maybe Eric Spoelstra and the Miami Heat could teach Zach LaVine what real culture is. Because you know what Zach LaVine's doing? He wants to get out of Chicago. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him at this point. But there's one person that needs to go with him. Billy Donovan. Mr. Oh, nothing's wrong. I'm just strolling in the Sunday afternoon. I'm just gonna chew my gum and not give a damn about my players. I'm not giving a damn about my team. Everything is gonna be fine. Billy Donovan, you are part of the problem, bro. You are not the solution. You are a problem. Where the hell is Tom Thibodeau when you need him? Oh, yeah, that's right. He's in New York. Where the hell is Phil Jackson when you need him? Oh, yeah, that's right. He retired and moved out of the NBA years ago. Where the hell is Scott Skiles when you need him? Oh, yeah, he didn't leave the Chicago Bulls to the playoffs, but at least he was a competent head coach. Billy Donovan, why are you in the NBA? I'm just going to ask you that, period, point blank. Why are you in the NBA, dude? You didn't want to be part of a rebuild in Oklahoma City years ago when you had Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook? And then another year you had James Harden in OKC? And then another year you had PG-13, who is going off in the LA Clippers right now? You didn't even want to be part of the rebuild in Oklahoma City Thunder, and you said to yourself, you know what? Why don't I go to Chicago? Why don't I go to this legendary franchise and try to build a culture that way? Billy Donovan, the only thing that you're building is your own grave. And the fact that Billy Donovan has led the Chicago Bulls team for a couple of years now is making me sick to my stomach. Sick to my stomach. Billy Donovan said, it's a struggle when you lose, but I see them fighting and trying. We just haven't been consistent enough, and we haven't been consistent in shooting the basketball. I felt our guys were really trying. We just have these stretches where we dig ourselves somewhat of a hole. We just have to keep fighting through and being more consistent. You know what, Billy Donovan? Why don't Why don't you practice what you preach, bro? Why don't you teach your guys how to lock in into the start of the game? You get outscored 26-14 in the first quarter. Why? Because the Chicago Bulls dug themselves too deep of a hole to come back from. I get that Chicago chipped away at the 11-point halftime lead that the Oklahoma City Thunder had. And I get that. We actually took a lead at one point in this game. We tied the game midway through the third quarter on a bucket and a free throw from DeMar DeRozan. But you give up 6 straight points on Kendrick Williams and Isaiah Joe's back-to-back threes. You got back into the game, and your complacency as a team has costed the Chicago Bulls this win. And let me tell you something else. Kobe White, you are no longer a point guard. You're not. You're a bench player. We need leaders. We need a floor general that can command an offense. Think of Derek Fisher, Kobe Bryant, Chris Paul. Hell, even Steph Curry. Hell, even Kirk Heinrich when he was in the Chicago Bulls. Derrick Rose. You know what those guys were doing? They were floor generals. They commanded the offense and was the captain of the team. Right now, when I look at this Bulls roster, I see 5, or I should say multiple individuals and one leader. And that one leader is Alex Caruso. Because, God damn it, Alex Caruso has played with more heart and more energy than any of y'all on this roster. I understand Io and Drum have been bringing it, and I get it. But as far as leftovers, forget the leftovers for the Chicago Bulls. They need to be eating their Thanksgiving food from a damn dumpster. Because what I watched from the Bulls was absolute garbage. It was absolute garbage. It was absolute disgraceful. It was pathetic. We couldn't find an answer to SGA all night. And Stacey King said that the Chicago Bulls were close. We're close to turning around. We're close to figuring out. And we're close to winning games. Stacey King, I understand where you're coming from, my guy. I truly understand it, but we are going nowhere until we learn how to lock in for 48 minutes and try to turn defense into offense. Because the last couple of years, we've been struggling with that. And apparently, the Chicago Bulls just don't want to play. We have individuals on this team that don't give a damn about playing basketball. They care about themselves. And only one guy is truly a team player. That is truly embarrassing, and that is truly pathetic. That the most recognizable brand in the entire world is turning into a laughingstock. And as far as the Chicago Bulls, y'all are the laughingstock in the NBA right now. I know the Pistons' record is bad. I know the Washington Wizards' record is bad. But they were supposed to be bad coming in. Now, I didn't expect Detroit to be bad because of Monty Williams, but I damn sure expected the Washington Wizards to be bad, but that's beside the point. Chicago, you're not going to learn. You don't learn how to lock in for 48 minutes. You don't learn the proper mentality in order to win. If you bring this garbage to Toronto, I'm literally speechless as I'm saying this. If the Chicago Bulls bring the exact same garbage to Toronto, then I don't know what I'm going to do. I really don't know what I'm going to do. Billy Donovan, you need to go. Zach LaVine, you need to go. We need to get a floor general and an ownership group that gives a damn about winning in the city of Chicago. Pretty much, Oklahoma City dominated every single stat in this game. They shot 49% compared to 38% from the field, 3-point percentage. Chicago was actually the better 3-point shooting team, 39% compared to 38%, but that don't mean shit. And Chicago was perfect from the foul line. When was the last time the Chicago Bulls had a perfect game for the foul line? 17-17. I mean, I got to give the Bulls credit for that, but Oklahoma City was more aggressive than y'all. They got to the foul line more because y'all had 26 fouls committed to 17. You know what that tells me? The Oklahoma City Thunder were more disciplined than y'all, and y'all played like a bunch of little kids. Little kids that haven't played the game of basketball a day in your lives. And SGA treated every single one of y'all like he was our father. He owns the Chicago Bulls for the rest of his NBA career. He dropped 40 points, 12 assists, 5 rebounds, 17 of 18 for the free throw line. And by the way, he also had 3 blocks. Chet Holmgren, he's the odds-on favorite for Rookie of the Year. Absolutely no debate there. 18 points, 13 rebounds, 4 blocks, and a steal along with 2 assists. Isaiah Joe, he is a 3-point sniper off the bench. Look out for him for the rest of the NBA. 20 points. He was 5 for 7 from the 3-point line. Williams had 13 off the bench. He was 3 for 3 from 3-point range. Look, the Oklahoma City Thunder did what they were supposed to do. They were able to take care of business against a team in the Chicago Bulls that just don't get it. And like I said, Chicago, you are a brand. Not just an NBA franchise, okay? You are a national brand that is recognized all over the world. And you're turning that brand into a laughingstock. Why? Because you don't lock in for 48 minutes. You consistently get into slow starts. We have an ownership group that just doesn't give a damn about winning in the city of Chicago. And you have a head coach that needs to go back to the NCAA. Because you might be in the NBA, Billy Donovan, but you damn sure coach like an NCAA coach. Go back to college where you belong and let this ownership group, if I could call it that, because we have an owner that just doesn't give a damn, bring a coach that at least will bring some accountability to the Chicago Bulls. Because everybody needs to be held accountable for this garbage that the Bulls keep playing at. Y'all earned this 5-11 record. And y'all earned the right, or I should say, the disprivilege of eating your Thanksgiving leftovers in the Chicago dumpster. Terrible performance for the Chicago Bulls. All credit to the Oklahoma City Thunder. All credit. That's going to do it for this Black Friday edition of Let 'Em Know Kings United. You can find this show on Amazon Music, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Radio Public, Pandora, wherever else you want to listen to this show. Give the show a follow on these platforms if you can, please. Turn on your notifications so you know about the next episode. Please rate, spread the word out to your friends. Give a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. I'm Skylar Weisberg. Thank you for tuning in. I hope every one of you enjoyed your Thanksgiving with your family and your friends, and I will see you right back here for another episode of Let 'Em Know Kings United.